So not only do we have Rangers, Hibs and Dundee United in their next set of European fixtures coming up starting tomorrow, with Rangers taking on Victoria Pilsen, we also have found out today Celtic, Aberdeen joining the mix on who they're going to be playing in the playoffs potentially, as well as Rangers, Hibs and Dundee United's potential playoff opponents should they make it to that stage. So we're going to react to the playoff draws, give my thoughts on how I think the teams could do if and when they get to that stage, and then we'll do the predictions for the next round of fixtures this week. If you are new around here, please consider checking out some of the other content on the channel, whether it's Scottish football related, gaming related, or wrestling related. That would be greatly appreciated. And hit the like button and subscribe if you're new as well. But without further ado, let's react to the first set of potential playoff draws. So we'll go from the highest level of competition down to the lowest. So starting off with the Champions League potential playoff draws, we have Celtic, who are joining the competition stage at this stage, of course. And Celtic have been drawn to play against either Slovan Bratislava or is it Kairat Almaty. Slovan Bratislava, of course, the favourites to progress through that, and Celtic, of course, played them in the league's phase of last season's competition, winning 5-1 at home. So you would feel as though that Celtic will take great confidence from this draw. Whether or not this kicks their board into action and thinks, well, that's a good draw for us, there's a good chance we're going to make the Champions League, and then they sign some higher calibre of players now, or not, remains to be seen. But you would feel as though Celtic should have a strong chance of making it through that playoff, whichever opponent ends up being. Although it has been pointed out that if it ends up being the Kazakhstani outfit, travelling to Kazakhstan in that heat wouldn't be great for them, so the Celtic Park leg would be crucial in that case. On to Rangers. Of course, if they make it past Pilsen, we'll play either Salzburg or Bruges in the playoff round. Was the arguably the more favourable tie, because Benfica are probably going to knock Nice out, and Benfica were the strongest team that they could have got. But it's still really tough, and they need to make it past Pilsen first. In all honesty, from what I've seen from Rangers over the 3 competitive fixtures that they've had, I think they were extremely lucky to get past Panathinaikos and lucky not to get beaten by Motherwell. So unless they sort things out, maybe the Mikey Moore inclusion will be the missing ingredient, if you like. But if they come up against a team that is firing as it stands with how they've played in the last 3 games, then they are going to concede goals, and I don't know if they will make it to the Champions League group stage. But the good thing for them is because they did defeat Panathinaikos in the last round, they are guaranteed Europa League no matter what happens. I do think that if they do make it to the playoff stage, it may be a step too far for them, but we're just going to have to wait and see. On to Aberdeen in the Europa League. They have been drawn to play against either FCSB or Steaua Bucharest, or Drita, who I'm going to be honest, I've never heard of. And this was the best possible tie that Aberdeen could have got in terms of the groupings, in my opinion, especially since, even though normally a Steaua Bucharest or FCSB tie would be really quite a tough one, where you're like, oh, don't really fancy that one, they have been in horrible form of late. They've lost their last 4 competitive games on the bounce, and if they kept that form up, there's every chance that they may not even progress in this tie. So I believe that Aberdeen, as long as they can find form similar to the way they played in the Scottish Cup final, helping to neutralise Celtic and then snatching that goal, albeit a big mistake from Kasper Schmeichel, or if they can find their early season form from last season, tonight will be a great indicator of it, to be fair. I do think they have an excellent chance of making the Europa League. However, of course, Aberdeen are in a situation where no matter what happens, they will be in European football, whether it's Conference or Europa League, remains to be seen. On to Hibs, who were devastatingly knocked out of the Europa League, of course, with that overhead kick in the last few minutes against Midtjylland, who are playing against Partizan Belgrade. And the reward, if they manage to get through that tie, will be playing either Legia Warsaw or Larnaca. Most likely Legia Warsaw, you would imagine, who, of course, have beaten Celtic in the past, although I think that result might go overturned. The way I look at it is, yes, 2 tough ties ahead of Hibs overall, but they have played and competed well against a tougher opponent, in my opinion, than both Partizan and Legia Warsaw. So if they can find those levels of performance and confidence, then I have every bit of faith that Hibs can make it to the Conference League group stages, with that being the case. Will I be surprised if they get knocked out? No, I wouldn't. But I do have the faith that they can potentially pull it off based off the fact that they competed with a team who is stronger than the teams they would have left to play. And on to Dundee United, who of course have an extremely tough task with Rapid Vienna, and the reward would be playing against either AIK Stockholm or Eto FC Gore. I'm probably butchered that name, but you would say that if Dundee United can find the performance to knock out Rapid Vienna and replicate it in the next again round, then they would also make it to the league stage. I don't know if they're going to find the performance to knock out Rapid Vienna. They were not impressive against Una Strassen. I do believe that they picked up performance against Falkirk, but they did come away with a draw in that one, so I don't know. But without further ado, let's get to the predictions for the actual fixtures coming this week. Starting off with tomorrow night's fixture between Rangers and Victoria Pilsen at Ibrox. I think this leg is extremely important in the tie. Obviously, both legs are important, but Rangers need to get off to a good start. If they don't take advantage of the Ibrox leg, then I can see them being knocked out by the time they go across to Pilsen. Again, performance-wise, hasn't been great in the past three. Russell Martin obviously came out and blasted the players as well. You're going to get one of two types of reactions there. They're either going to just throw you under the bus, or they're going to get their act together. And I don't know if Mikey Moore on his own is enough to turn the fortunes around. Not only has the performance been poor in the past three games, but someone actually pointed out that they've conceded 50 plus shots on goal in the last three competitive games overall. That's just not good enough from a Rangers side, no matter how well you're performing. It's not as if Panathinaikos were leagues ahead of them, and Motherwell should never be getting more shots on goal and more XG than you as a Rangers side. So it needs to be sorted out quickly, I would say. They have, fortunately for them, come up against two sides who have been really, really poor in front of goal, though. So they haven't, apart from obviously dropping points in the league and the draw last week, they haven't yet been properly punished with a defeat, with that being the case. So I think they need to start well. If they score early on, I think it will be quite comfortable for them. I am going to back them to win this one 1-0. Will they get through the tie? I need to see a better performance from them, though, so we'll see how that goes. On to Partizan Belgrade versus Hibs on Thursday night. Hibs, of course, like I said, will be gutted that this isn't a Europa League game that they're potentially playing. They might not have won the penalty shootout, but I think they deserve to take it to penalties with their performance over the two legs, in all honesty. They should take great confidence from that, though. They are not the favourites going into the game, of course. I think Football Meets Metadata on Twitter says that they're the slight favourites overall in the tie. Anything other than a defeat here is magnificent, I would say. If they take a draw back to Easter Road, brilliant. If they took a win back to Easter Road, fantastic. I would back them to get through the tie overall, but I'm going to say we're going to get a 1-1 draw here with Hibs away from home. And on to Rapid Vienna versus Dundee United. Dundee United have a massive task on their hands. I don't think it's quite as big a task as it was against AZ Alkmaar a couple of seasons ago, but still a big one. The main goal, of course, playing away from home first is actually a bit of an advantage, same with Hibs. The main goal in this tie is, of course, to still be in the game when they take it back to Tannadice next week. I think anything more than a 2-goal deficit taken back to Tannadice is going to be extremely difficult. I'm going to predict a 1-0 Rapid Vienna win here, and Dundee United still to be in the tie. That's going to do it for the prediction video and assessing how the playoffs went. If you're happy with your team's playoff, or you disagree with anything I've said in the video, or agree with anything I've said in the video, let me know in the comments below. Like I said, please consider checking out some of the other content on the channel, liking and subscribing, and I'll catch you in the next one.